Hey everybody, good morning, Reaper audience, Reaper people, Reaper fantastic fam. Yeah, whatever you want to call yourselves. It's your family, you name it. I'm not going to assign you one. Oh, we got a sub already? That's crazy talk. TNT. Thank you. So yeah, well yeah, I know your notifications are kind of weird, huh? Do your drafts? Like I never get, it seems like I almost never get notifications on my stuff. No, I'm here, Twisted Dome, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. I'm back. I'm back from Yosemite. And I even sent Justin my best picture that I took so that he could show you guys my picture from Yosemite.
And bam.
Woo! And it's upside sideways.
It's huge.
It's huge and sideways. Can we flip it?
Oh, I can flip it.
He's going to flip it.
Oh,
So look, guys, that's where I was this weekend. After he flips it, it'll be yay! And that's the best photo I got all weekend of Half Dome. Isn't it gorgeous? So like there, now you too can experience Yosemite through my photo. It was amazing. Yes, I absolutely, isn't it like a painting, Coffee Nerdery Beer? Yeah. Yeah, it was, like everything was just perfect. Yeah, it was great lighting and great positioning and everything. So I had a super fun time. I highly recommend this national park. It is so gosh darn photogenic. Even if you can't take a good picture, you'll take good pictures at Yosemite. But yeah, so I had a great weekend. We snowshoed, and I got blisters and felt suitably outdoorsy. Did you get blisters when you snowshoed, Justin?
I've never snowshoed.
You skied, though.
I did ski.
You did ski. All right.
Blisters was not the problem.
Yeah.
I had other issues.
Well, you got knees.
Yeah,
like,
well,
you
actually,
have knee issues.
honestly, my knees held up. It was the altitude sickness combined with the not fitting of the boots very well.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Twisted Oma, you are right. I did take a trip to Yosemite, and there is my best picture from it. But I took it was a Friday through Monday, so I'm back. So you're good. Good evening. Good evening, morning, night, noon, whatever it is for people. Oh, gosh, I don't even want to think about snowboarding. I would fall on my snout.
Yeah, skiing is a lot more fun.
Yeah, snowshoeing was, if you're looking for a winter sport that's pretty easy to pick up, snowshoeing is actually pretty easy. I would not advise doing the 3.5 hours that I ended up starting with, because that was definitely blister-inducing. However, like a 1.5 to 2 hour would be very enjoyable, I think, and good exercise. Yeah, happy little trees. See, it's good. Hello, Coobs. Good morning, everybody. Oh no, don't break it. Well, at least you broke a tree and not yourself, no bad Zeke, but still. Yeah, so today we're working on the most horrifying subject. I figured I'd start you guys out with some natural beauty because after this we're working on the most horrifying subject known to mini painting, i.e. eyeballs today. It's going to be eyeballs. I decided that today I would warm up with eyeballs. It is going pretty awesome. I had my awesome vacation weekend in Yosemite, and it was so relaxing and really awesome. So it was great. Lovely. Oh yeah, don't forget we're still koala-ing. Wait, we'll give koala koala. Remember the koala? If you haven't gotten your koala yet, get your koala.
All right, Miss Ann.
All right.
Ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get started. Let's talk about our eyeballs. Let's see if we can get some mini eyeballs done today. So there's our eye beast. So all right, guys, faceless horror. This is the model you all need to buy if you are not good at eyeballs. I've said this on my Patreon. I'm saying it here. Faceless Horror. 77114 is your number. Here. 77114 is your number. Get the Faceless Horror. Oh, wait. Stream froze? Not good. Yay. Yeah, so you don't have to paint all the eyeballs, right? But the point is that this is a great practice mini because it's full of nothing but eyeballs and mouths. So, and it's not that expensive. It's like, what, $5.99? Not sure how long the koalas are going to be available, Panache. Hi, Kevin. We have a sculptor poking his head in at the door, giving us suspicious looks. But you do want this model, and the reason this model is so nice for this is that the eyeballs, this is Julie Guthrie sculpt, all the eyeballs are different sizes. So on this side, I've got a lot of bigger eyeballs, but then if I go to the other side, I have some really very small eyeballs that are more 28 millimeter. And so you can what it's good for is you start with the big eyeballs to practice your eyeballs because that makes it easier and you master kind of the technique and the stroke, and then you gradually work smaller until you're doing the tiny little eyeballs that are the size that you'll be doing on a 28 millimeter figure. So essentially it lets you kind of master the motor control and the style that you need, and the brush stroke and how you're doing it, the technique, and then you can just shrink it down and get it better and better. It's also a great warm-up. If you have to do an eyeball on your mini, you could start by doing an eyeball or 3 or 6 on here, and then, once you're in the eyeball zone, you can do the eyeballs on your mini. This is, well, wait, here we go. I'm just going to put my sticky note up here. Sticky note, faceless horror. There, now you all can see. Yeah, it is. It's a great, but it is, this is the model I used when I taught my eyeball class because it is really easy. And the nice thing is, this really illustrates too, I'll be able to do colored irises on these big eyes and have them look right, but doing it on a small mini is far more challenging. So it's when you get down to the tiny eyes, you'll start to see, oh yeah, I really can't do a colored iris very well at this scale. So it kind of illustrates that as well. So the first thing we're going to do, I love planar crossroads. Okay, planar crossroads, I think I found you and I think I sent you a welcome email and I hope I did, but I didn't get a response, but yeah, so hopefully. Yes, this is very Lovecraft. But I think it could also be used as, what is it? It's just your bring mouth, or you could also use it as that. But it's definitely Lovecraftian. Yeah. Yep. Yes. But yeah, so good. Eyeballs. So usually what I do, and you can see kind of some colors that I have set up here. So we're going to start by outlining the eye in a dark color. And usually I use something like walnut, or this is brown liner, 9064. But if you're doing someone, oh, okay, that's okay. You can hate emails all you want. I feel that, planar crossroads. But anyway, if you're doing something like a blonde, like say a very fair-haired model, or even somebody who's got really platinum hair, like a Daenerys or whatever, you can feel free to use a lighter brown for this if you have someone who's very fair. Because sometimes when you try to use the brown liner on a model that is very fair-skinned, it just looks way too dark. So you got to keep that in mind. It's kind of relative, right? Now, the nice thing about liner, though, is that when you thin it down, it gets more translucent. So you can sometimes get away with brown liner on a blonde or fair figure, just because, if you thin it down, it's going to make it very subtle. It's a much more subtle line than it looks when it's thick. So that's actually the nice thing about liners, is that you can kind of alter how opaque they are very easily, much more easily than a regular paint, because they're a bit more fluid to begin with. And the other nice thing about liners is that they are more fluid, so they tend to run off your brush really nicely and essentially be very controllable. So if you were going to do, this one's quite thinned down, as you could see. And the nice thing about this is that when you're using thinner paint is that it naturally falls into the crack around the eyeball. You can see how it gives it a nice little outline. And you want that. You want, because everybody's eyeball, has a bit of shadow in the crevices of it. It's really the rounded part of our eye that the light tends to hit. So, yeah. Or let's do another one. So I fill in the whole socket first. Let's do a gigantic one. This is one of the biggest ones on the model. So you won't get as much drama if you're using a color like, this is Shield Brown, 9161. And this is probably as light as I would go for this technique. Shield Brown, I'd put it as kind of a medium toward a dark brown. I probably wouldn't use anything darker. I went a little bit thick with my paint here, so I got more coverage. But you can see it's still making that kind of rim there. And this is your guideline, because you want to keep that dark rim around the eye when you go back to add the white. And this is what I do on every model I do, whether it's from a huge bust or it's a tiny little 28 millimeter model. I'm going to do the same technique on eyeballs. It doesn't matter. Where it changes up is what you do from this point up as far as scale. So obviously when you're working on smaller models, you're not going to be able to put as much detail in. And when you're working on a bust, you're going to be able to do all sorts of fun stuff, like put the kind of the hints of red and pink on the inside of the eyeballs, and add some color to the white and things like that. And we'll get up to that in a moment. Let's see, I'm just making sure. Why brown as opposed to dark blue violet? Browns and grays tend to be a more naturalistic effect, Rainbow Sculptor. So you could use a dark blue violet, but it actually might read as like eyeliner if you're not careful. It's because if you're using like a blue liner, then you can get away with it pretty easily because that's not going to suggest very much blue. But you want to be careful not to have too much color there unless you're doing a weird monster. Then it doesn't matter, right? You could do dark blue violet, no problem at all. Painting dog, this is actually, I started with rosy skin and then I actually used bright skin shadow to wash it. So it's coming across as a little more orangey on the screen than it is in person. It's quite pink and fleshy in person. It's rather grotesque, actually. It went a bit too much pink, but I used a heavy wash, so I used my usual 4 drops of brush-on sealer, 2 drops of water, and 1 drop of paint for the bright skin shadow. And it came off pretty heavy because well, you can see a little bit of the rosy skin up here on this tentacle, or eye stalk, as it were. So that's a very light color, so adding any dark color is going to bring out a lot of detail. And this is an excellent technique to use for this model. I mean, obviously there's so many little divots and everything that if you go through and you try to shade it all, you're going to just want to shoot yourself in the foot, or the arm, or the mini painting hand. So instead, use a wash and then go back and kind of hit the highlight the fleshy portions that you're interested in. And there are some of these that look more like melting flesh. So like over here, there's some gobbets or droplets or something. You can make those different colors. You know, you could get really gross on it. But yeah, so there we go. Yeah, and that's another, thanks for reminding me of that, Nomad Zeke. This is why we don't use black. So if you are painting a very, very cartoony model, like actually this works on chibis very well. Anything like that, which is very much like a cartoon in miniature, then you can absolutely use pure black for lining around the eye. Anywhere else, pure black is going to be too harsh and come off as goth eyeliner or just going to give you a very cartoony effect. Yeah, Coops, you kind of have to go like you know, centimeter by centimeter. Julie did a very good job with this. Yes, he's very fleshy. So yeah, so if we do black, actually I can do that. Let me grab my pure black. I'll just show you guys. Why not? We got time, right? 1 second. Let me get it all mixed up. And you can see, I'll put it right next to the other eye so you can, or relatively close so you can see how harsh it is. Even if I thin it a little bit, it's still going to be pretty darn black. Especially because our black is pretty high coverage as it is. There. Okay, let's give you a black eyeball. Let's give you a black eye, little eye monster. He's very sad. He got beat up on the playground. All right, so down here we can block in the black. And it's going to look very black and very harsh. So if you want that, do it. But do be aware that if you're going for anything natural looking, or, you know, and even monsters can be natural looking. I mean, it's all whether you want to look like a beast from a D&D cartoon, or do you want it to look like something that could actually crawl out of your dreams and strangle somebody, or nom on them, since this one has lots of teeth, or stare at them intently, which this monster would also be good at. All right, Rainbow Sculptor. Yeah, we're about to get to whites colors. So actually, yeah, when in doubt, paint it like an eyeball. So this is the dealio with colors you can use to, and actually, let's see, do I have a blue? I can desaturate a blue real quick. See, you can actually use ghost white normally instead of that. But all right, so blue is a valid color. A very, very pale blue is a valid color for an eyeball. Let me grab my white and mix it up real quick here. I'll mix up something that's kind of like ghost white. Collins did a drive-by there, guys. You're too late to wave to him. He's already gone. He is like a ghost in the night. Now, this is very blue, so we might be too blue, but we'll find out. All right, so. Yeah, Sigwolf, right, yeah. D&D cartoon versus instant sanity check. You've got it. So you can just see all the different little eyeballs that we've got going here. So, all right, so the whites of the eyes. So once again, if you are going anime or chibi or anything like that, you can go with pure white for your eyes. Or if you are painting a teeny tiny little eye, absolutely do a pure white white. And the reason for all this is that, yes, our eyes in real life are not pure white, and when we paint on canvas, we'd never paint a white pure eye, an eye pure white. But as you go down in scale, you essentially have to accentuate that white in order to make it look right. Sometimes you can get away with an off-white still, but if you are painting a really tiny eye, like some of the Dark Sword models by Tom Meyer have just teensy little eyeballs to where you can hardly even suggest the white. It's very hard. So then you can feel justified, if you want, in using a pure white. Even there, if you go with a pale gray, pale blue, or off-white, it'll look a little more natural. It's just a little harder to have the expression turn up then when you've got a really tiny eye. These guys are bigger eyes. They're more like, let's say 54 millimeter eyes. So with the bigger the eyeball you get, the more off from pure white you want to go. If you look at your own eyes in a mirror, you're going to see they're kind of a milky yellowy gray. And as who was it who said blue? I'm sorry, I already have forgotten because I'm just sitting here talking nonstop. But yes, blue is a good suggestion. If you need an eye to stand out and you are surrounded by an orangey skin tone, you can use a pale blue and the whites of the eyes will stand out very strongly. But again, that can backfire on you. So let's see here. Let's do, what do we want to go blue? We want to go blue up here. Now, this is all contrasty. Yeah, and I went very blue. So I can go and kind of mitigate this. But I can start with blue. So essentially what you want to do is you want your, whatever your white color is going to be, you want it to be a bit thicker. You do not want it to run down into that crack. So you do want to keep it with just a little bit of water in it. I usually do it around base coat level, which for me is, between 4 and 6 drops of paint and 1 drop of water. And that usually gets you a nice solid coverage. You also don't want to have to paint the eye too many times over to get coverage. So that's one other reason to leave your paint a little bit thicker. But you still want it to go on smoothly, so you don't want to use it like necessarily straight out of the bottle. Yay! So you can definitely see that that's blue, so I've got too much blue. What color I would usually use if you wanted to do a bluish toned white would be Ghost White, which would be 9063, which would be paler than this. Let me see if I can mix up a kind of closer to Ghost White. That's closer to Ghost White. So I just had too much blue. The problem is ultramarine is very strong. So let's just try that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Rainbow Sculptor. That's exactly the theory behind the blue white of the eye, though, is that it's contrasting. It's complementary colors, and so of course they're going to make stuff stand out more. There, that's more like it. So that's more like a Ghost White would be. Yeah, I made a little bit of an error there, but that's okay. Yes, it's definitely great eyeball practice. It's also a good warm-up because especially if you concentrate on the bigger eyes, and if you think about it, you warm up before you exercise and you warm up before you do other things. So why not warm up before you paint minis? So doing a couple of eyes is a good way to warm up, or doing some teeth, or doing whatever. This is a good practice mini just for general. Let's see here. What I tend to use is an off-white. A lot of people like linen white for this, 9061. This is actually bleached linen, which is 9436. It's a little closer to pure white. And again, I'm using it a little bit thicker. I'm painting it on. I'm trying very hard to avoid the edges there. If I do accidentally paint over an edge, I can just touch it up with my brown liner. Pretty easily, actually. Now, that's not quite a solid a coat because I thinned it a little bit extra, so we'll let it dry and put one more coat on. Eyeballs. Yeah, bleached linen is a great color. 9436. It's a bones color. It's my bones off-white. I've always wanted something a little less yellow than linen white, and bleached linen is my friend. Linen white is more yellow. This is more like kind of biscotti, has a little bit more brown in it, tiny bit more gray in it. It's a lot more neutral. So I like my bleached linen quite a bit. Although yellowy isn't bad for eyeballs, since your own eyeballs are kind of yellowy gray, but I think this is a good color. Another great eyeball color, especially if you're going to do busts. Now, if you're going to do busts, you got to go even further from pure white. So what I typically do there is actually take weathered stone, 9087, which is, as you know, a brownish gray because it's our stone triad. But it also is a great color for big, like busts, giants, ogres, really big eyeballs, because it's more close to the natural color. And you really need to damp down your whites when you're doing something as large as, say, a 1/10 scale bust, or they're just wrong. They just look horribly cartoony and wrong. So I will use weathered stone, and I'll mix it about half and half with pure white, and I'll use that. And then I'll add a little bit more white, because at that point the eye is big enough for you to actually highlight. So you could use that, or you could use linen white to bring it up a little more yellowy. It's up to you. It's also up to the model. Obviously, some characters are going to be younger and have clearer whites, and older characters might have more yellowed whites, more blood vessels, things like that. Cat-like eyeball. We could make one of these a kitty. I'm fine with that. So let's do the pure white eye on our tiny little cartoony black eye down here. Just for contrast's sake. And again, I might left my white a little bit thin, so I may have to put on one more layer. Here are all our eyeballs. They're all staring at you. See, I can look at you guys without even being looking at the camera. Yay! Eyeball white. Yeah, eyeball white's not a bad idea. I'll write that down. Thanks for the suggestion, Twistom. I'll ask Sadie if she needs any ideas. Eyeball white. I probably would make that like a really pale version of weathered stone if I was going to do it that way. You want it to be functional and to work with a lot of things. Yeah, I don't know why we never did an eyeball white. Probably because that does change so much when you are going up and down in scale. Because, you know, big models need a different color of eyeball than little models do. So, all right, so there's all of our eyeballs coming right up. Let's see, where should we do a kitty? Well, all of these are big enough for a colored iris. So let's do a cat's eye. Cat's eye probably is best on one of the darker rimmed eyes, because cats do have black eye rims. Let's see, we'll take our koala leaf colors and do a green one. So if you're doing a colored iris, you do want to start with a slightly darker color, and the reason for that is if you look at a lot of our own eyes in the mirror, we have a dark rim around our iris, and that tends to look natural to us. A lot of animals have the same thing. So usually with a colored iris, you're actually doing two colors. You're doing a dark rim, and then you're lightening it a bit for the interior part. So I'm going to use we'll use leaf green for the dark outside. It should be dark enough. And then I'm going to use mostly pale green with just one drop of leaf green for the highlight. Now you may discover that you need to have your colors, let me see it, there we go. You may discover that you need to have your highlight color for eyes quite bright to make the color read, and that's because these eyes are so small. So a darker color may not actually read as the color. If you try to use a dark blue for an eyeball iris, you probably won't see it really. Right here, Kothos, this is what I'm painting. Then 7714, Faceless Horror. This is what we are dealing with. There we go. Thanks, Moobot. This is the best eyeball.
So that was me. It's a command. Exclamation point RTB.
Oh, that was Justin doing his job. So we'll mix up some leaf green. But yeah, so you may find that on eyeballs, if you want the color to come through, you want to use something lighter and brighter. I often will use clear brights for this. I don't have clear green on my plate, or I would be using that, because the clears really do look a lot brighter. All right, so obviously, well, one thing about a cat's eye is that they typically don't have as much white showing as we do, if any. So usually animals, you won't see the whites of their eyes, most animals, unless they're scared. But if let's actually look up a picture, because this is what the internet is good for, right? Photo references. If you're going to paint a cat's eye, then go to cat eye, and go to images. And unfortunately, we're going to get a lot of companies, but there we go. So go to kitty eyes, and you will see they have a very dark rim. You usually cannot see the white, except maybe a little bit on some cats. And you can see how the eyeball looks. Now, a cat who's very relaxed is going to have bigger irises or bigger pupils, just like us, you know, in lower light also. That's probably average. So it really depends on how scary you want your cat to look. If you want a scary cat, that's when you make the iris very large and the pupil very thin and slit-like, and that gives you more of the scary-eyed cat. If you want the more gentle cat eye, then maybe you want to make the pupil just a little bit bigger. Really, really relaxed, friendly cats, big eyes. You know, there's a nice one. These are all beautiful eyes. But yeah, so you can see. And you can also see in these that when the cat is relaxed, they're a lot like us. If you look at a human, the pupil doesn't actually hit the bottom of the iris. Like, it doesn't hit the bottom of the eye. It tends to be in the upper part of the eye, and the pupil tends to touch the upper lid. That's the same as humans. And the times it won't be true are like here, where the cat is very alert. There you go. So if the cat is really alert and really intense, then the eyes open wide, and that's where you don't necessarily see that pupil touching the top of the lid. So always, always use photo references if you are going to paint an animal. So given that, I'm going to do, yeah, we'll do this guy. So you want your paint thin because you want your green to be pretty bright. So you're using that white undercoat at that point to make your color brighter. I'm mostly going to be using my mixture. Let's see here. Paint in. You're going to paint it almost over the whole white. I'm going to leave a little bit of white around there. I might even use my brush to make the center a little lighter. So we got a green little eye there. Yeah, there's a limit as to how many colors you can put in iris. I mean, a lot of those cats had multicolored irises that are really beautiful, but there really is a limit as to what you can do on a little scale like this. See, already that eye's looking very dark, so I'm going to have to go to my pure pale green probably. And the reason is I want the pupil to show up. If I try to just paint a pupil over that, it's not going to be really, it's not going to stand out real good, right? And also you've got the fact that an iris picks up light, so it tends to have a highlight. It tends to be a little bit lighter toward certain parts, like toward the bottom of it and toward the middle of it, where the light is really coming in. So we're going to use some pale green. I'm going to use it straight up because I want it to be strong. I'm going to try to leave a dark green rim around this, and I'm just going to do a brighter green in the middle. I might even go a little lighter. I might even throw some pure white in this. So there, I've got essentially, it's hard to see. I wonder if I can zoom. Hold on, let me see if I can zoom. Zoom. I'm going to try to get the camera to zoom in, guys, so we'll see. Come on, zoom. There we go. There we go. All right, let's see. Aha! Aha! Okay. Now we're in business. All right, so now you can barely see that I have a little bit of white. I have a dark green band, and then I've got that lighter green there. So if I really want this pupil to pop out, I will take some white and add it about 50-50 to my pale green. Maybe a little bit less. I still want it to be quite green. So I just want to lighten it up a little bit more so that when I put that pupil in there, it'll be good. If I was using a clear bright, would I use a straight clear bright or add some white? I would use a straight clear bright for the beginning to glaze Grand-No cookies. I might add some white to it then if I still needed to light it. Or more often I'm using like clear green for that. I might actually add some clear yellow to really make it pop. Depends on the eye. And then, now, one thing to remember, and this is the same technique you're going to use when you're adding your pupil. When you start at trying to hit more the middle of the eye, don't keep doing like this. Come at it from below. And the reason for this is then that you can use that upper eyelid to catch your brush so that you don't, get out of control, essentially. If you're going across the eye, it's a little bit harder. But if you go up from the bottom, you kind of have that point that's just going to stop you. So you can put your light color down where you need it. All right, now let's grab some pure black since we have it. And normally I will use like walnut or brown liner to do this. You want to keep a little moisture on your brush, but you want your paint to be fairly thick. It's kind of a dance. I would say 4-to-1 paint to water, and I won't use a dry brush for this. I'll actually wet my brush, leave a little moisture in the brush, and then load up my brush with paint. You obviously want very little paint on your brush because it needs to be a good tip, but you also need enough paint to come off of your brush. So cat's eyes are the easiest because that's what most of us paint anyway, unintentionally. We're just doing a single stripe. And remember, you don't want it to go all the way down to the bottom of the eye. So try to get it in the middle. You can start with a little dot, a scary little dot, and then you can kind of elaborate on it a little bit. But you do want it to be a vertical dash. And of course, placement is just a matter of practice. Although these larger eyes, it is easier to place it correctly. I probably got a little bit too much toward the right, so I'm gonna get my brush a little bit more loaded up and come in to widen that out a little bit. Let's make sure I'm still on camera good. There, like that. There we go, that's almost perfect. So that's a kitty. Now, if we want that even, I do have clear yellow. If I want that eye to pop even more, because again, it's so tiny, right? And it looks green, but it's not like, you know, glowing green, like really luminous or anything. I'm gonna grab some clear yellow. You guys can't see my palette sadly because I zoomed in, but I'm squeezing out some clear yellow. And I might try to put a little bit of clear yellow right next to that pupil. Or right, yeah. To make it really pop. And then, if you're really masochistic, you can put the white highlight in the eye, which usually is near or on or across the pupil, depending on your light source. Let's see if I can nail that. It's okay if you interrupt the pupil a little bit. Well, I actually did get it, but it's so fine that you almost can't see it. Maybe I need to zoom more. I wonder if I can really zoom in. Let's see. Come on, camera. A little bit more. Come on, camera. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, camera. I know you can. I think we're at our limit, guys. I think the camera says we're at our limit. Well, that's just it, Pugh. You don't really sit down to paint the whole model, but it is great for when you want to practice. So like, you know, if you're about to do an eyeball on a model, then just paint a couple eyes off this guy. I have this guy in like, you know, in progress state all the time. I never really intend to finish him. It would take a lot of eyes. Unless you need him for a game, obviously, then great. But if you're buying him as a practice model, there's no point to sit and get yourself totally sick of eyes. You just want to practice them every once in a while. Okay, that's a bit bright. Almost wiped out my pupil there. So if I take water really quick, I can scrub that off. I might scrub off my pupil too, that's the downside. Yeah, because my pupil was thinned paint, so I lost it, which is funny. It does happen. If you thin your paint too much, you will affect adhesion. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing a trick like that. But that just means I need to repaint my pupil. But you guys get the idea. I'm not going to spend too much time on the cat eye. I want to do another eye over on the other side. There. There's my kitty eye. Yeah, I mean, they make great monsters of any sort, like any sort of abomination or mutation. This is a great model for. I'm going to just touch up my lower iris here since I knocked out part of it down here. There. There we go. There's my happy kitty eye. Meow. This is not as bad, Sunthis. I mean, I at least using bones, like I can tell you this model's like only like $6, which is, you know, worth it. Yeah, you can, but that's going to impact your opacity rings. That's the dance you're doing when you add a medium. You could also just glaze like a sealer over the top of the eye if you want to. Like I could have glazed after that because I knew I was trying something titchy. I could have glazed before and after my with like brush on sealer 107. That would have protected it. Usually this doesn't happen, but yeah, you're always you take that chance of impacting opacity, and then it makes it harder in other places. So you got to kind of do a dance and say, well, what's most important to me? if you're really trying to do something like, maybe the only time I really would ever do this, I used to do it when I used Vallejo a lot because that paint liked to rub off, but the only time I would really glaze between layers is if I was doing a competition model and I was really nailing it and I loved an effect that I got, then I would absolutely put a layer of sealer down before I started, you know, bringing up highlights or doing other things, because I would want to protect what I had already done. Tester's dull coat or brush on sealer, anybody's brush on sealer really would work. Only $4, awesome. Yeah, that's true, Sunthis. You don't have to get a faceless horror if you want, but here we go. All right, so let's do a normal eyeball, quote unquote. I normally use the same dark brown that I used if I'm doing a really small 28mm eye. I'll use the same dark brown I used for lining, so usually walnut or brown liner. Although for eyeballs, I do find that walnut is maybe a little bit better because it has better opacity. It's got better coverage out the gate. So when you are doing a pupil on these suckers, you want it to like go down and stay down, because if you nail it, you don't want to have to paint it over because it's not dark enough. Yes. So again, if you're coming up, let's say this is a 28mm eye. I've loaded up my brush with my dark color, and I'm coming up from below. And usually what I'll try to do is do a V. So instead of a cat eye, which a lot of people just do one dot, one stripe, and that's how they get those stripy looking eyes, try to make two. Try to make a V. Try to make a, try to start like that. Then that's pretty decent. And notice that a V, when you're dealing with something as small, really ends up looking more like an oval. And then you can go in and you can try to make it just a little bit bigger. If you like the placement, you can try to put down a little bit more color to get your eye and kind of work it. Just go slow. Relax and go slow to get your eyeballs right. So, you know, on a normal 28mm eye, I probably would have only gotten that initial little V. And then sometimes I do have to pull it down a little bit. Remember, you don't want that underside of that iris and pupil to touch that lower lid. Unless the eyes are squinting, then you absolutely do. So like if I was doing, and then actually this is a good time to show you colored iris on like a human-like eye. Now, of course, you're going to see a lot more of the white of the eye. So this is a little bit different because we do have an actual defined iris pupil. So what I would probably do if I wanted to make this a colored eye is keep that black rim around the eye and bring in my color. Kind of like circle within a circle. Let me make sure my black is dry, or my dark brown rather. And if I wanted it really bright, I have two choices here. Either I can do another circle of white inside of this to make my green eye really bright, kind of like we used underpainting down here, or I can just go for it. If I think my green paint is opaque enough, I can just do a green dot. So green, and the hard part of doing a colored iris is that you want that dark rim around the eye. Otherwise, your eye isn't going to show up very well if you don't have a dark rim. And the reason that I use the dark brown instead of going with a really dark green is just that it's going to make it stand out a little bit better. You could use a really dark green, I suppose. And I want to make sure that I'm right up against that bottom edge, because usually the bottom is brighter. There, like that. That's pretty good. Oh, thanks, Calisandra, for subscribing. What brush am I using? Designation today, we are the usual. So we are using my DaVinci Maestro Series 10 size 1. There's Justin. He has just linked things in Moobot. But yeah, this is DaVinci Maestro, whoop, which is a Kolinsky sable. It says so on the barrel. That means it's one of the highest grades of sable. And this size 1, Series 10. And I like it for eyeballs. I really wouldn't use any other brush for eyeballs because it has such a razor sharp point and it's so nice and thin that I usually have a lot of wiggle room going in. You can use pure black for a pupil on a colored iris if you want, or walnut. Either one works. Both have very high coverage. And that's what you really want here because you only want to have to do it once. So if I'm putting in my pupil, I'm going to try to aim toward the top of what I just did.
Also, Anne, for future reference, and we'll let everyone in chat know this too, I'm going to try to put all of the potentially pertinent commands to that stream in the title of the stream. So if you're ever curious about the commonly asked questions. If you look at the title of the stream, in this case it has the SKU number and as well as the couple of chat commands you can put in to get what I imagine would cover 80% of the questions like that.
So you can see how my iris has gotten so very thin. And this is why you want to use a brighter color typically. It won't end up looking bright because it's so very thin. So the green is still there, but it's very hard to see. So that's why I tend to use clear brights for colored eyes, because over white, there's nothing brighter. And so it'll carry the color more than a more muted color will. I'm just going to add a little bit of a highlight there at the bottom of the iris because I can. So I've still got color. Now here we really do need that catch light. We need that white catch light right in the pupil. But you can see, I mean, this is a pretty big eyeball. This is at least twice as big as your average mini eyeball is. So you can see, you can barely see the color in this colored iris with the eye looking about right. So you can see how if you shrunk this by half, colored irises get almost impossible. The people I know who do colored irises on 28mm models manage to pull them off usually on larger eyeballs, like Werner Klock sculpts, for example. Werner sculpts much larger eyes. Some other sculptors do as well. Or they will actually artificially enlarge the eye, which I can totally show you how to do. Let's see, let's check our time. Well, we're running out of time, but well, maybe I can do that on one of these. Paint plastic surgery, of course, being what we call it when we artificially enlarge or reduce something. I'm going to try to come in from below. I'm going to try to just get a little catch light. There. Perfect. And I have practiced, I don't even want to think about how many eyeballs I've painted at this point, guys. It might be in the thousands. It's pretty scary. But that's a whole nother topic, Mr. Clearman. You always are the instigator. Congratulations on your gold medal at LVO, by the way. There, I gave you a shout out on my stream. Okay, so dead eyes are going to be actually more of a milky blue-gray, just to talk about it very, very quickly. So I'd start with a medium gray, and I'd kind of use some milky blue-gray over the top, probably like this bluish eye up here, and probably highlight it. It's really hard because you have to kind of suggest almost an underlying iris or pupil. Yeah, I kind of like that, but you got to make it more cloudy. Like the cloudiness in cataracts typically shows up in the iris and pupil. It's just, you'd only be able to really pull it off on a bust, I think. So, all right, let's see here. Paint plastic surgery. So, all right, so I've got a tiny eye and I want to do something. So I'm going to start with my usual thing. So like, say we're doing this little tiny eye down here. So I'm going to do my thing, but I'm actually going to make my, I'm not just going to let the dark color fill the area. I'm actually going to paint it slightly wider. I'm going to artificially enlarge the eye by making a dark border around the eye that enlarges it. So now it's the same size as this one, see? And then when you do your whites, this is if you want to artificially enlarge a tiny eye to make it easier to paint or try to pull off a colored iris on it. So then when you do your whites, you actually let the white flood the socket just like you would, oh no. That's what happens when I'm not bracing and my arm is falling asleep. 1 second, let me flood that a little bit with water and pull it back. But yeah, so you kind of do it like you draw an artificially larger outline around the eye. And then, there. There's our artificially larger eye. So you're actually drawing a little bit of black then onto the eyelid, onto the lower lid. You're kind of, you know, eliminating the eyelids a bit so that you get your bigger eyeball. Which on a 28mm model, they often don't have very good lids, or they have minimal lids anyway, so it's not really going to be noticed. And then you flood the entire eye socket with your white, just like you normally would do with your dark color, but this time you're doing it with white. And what that's going to do is give you the appearance of more room to work with. Always paint on the exhale when you are painting fine detail. If you hold your breath on the inhale, you will shake. So that's really, I've now enlarged that eye was actually smaller than this eye to start with, but if I painted this eye the way I just did that, they'd be the same size. So that's like artificially enlarging your eyeballs. And that way you've got actually maybe a chance, maybe you have a chance to pull off a colored iris. You'd have to start with green. Maybe have the eye looking a particular direction so you have more room. And put in your pupil. Let's have the eye looking this direction. So yeah, I've got a little bit of a colored iris in there, just a little bit. It's hard to see on camera, apologies, because it's light. And I didn't do a dark line about it. That's the problem with doing a really light colored iris when you don't have that dark outline, is that it gets kind of lost. And you end up seeing the pupil more than you end up seeing the green iris. But it does actually have a little bit of a color around it. And then it's really hard to do the catch light in something this small, but you can thin down your white paint a little and try. Just barely, but it tends to wipe out the pupil a little bit. So yeah, so things like, it's much easier to do it on a bigger eye, but you can kind of pull it off on a smaller eye. I'd probably have to futz with this a lot. This is why I don't like doing colored irises on little tiny eyes. I think they don't look great. And they almost are, you can almost never pull them off. They're very difficult. Very difficult. It takes some fancy painting to do that. So when you see somebody pull off a good colored iris on a 28mm model, you know that you are dealing with someone who really knows their stuff. All right, I think that's pretty much the dreaded eyeball at this point, guys. I could, if you're doing a more naturalistic eye on a larger model like a bust, you would take some reddish pink, maybe some deep red 9002 with a little bit of your skin tone mixed in, and you'd color the corners, just like if you see in your own eyes. Anytime you're dealing with a natural subject, I mean, it really makes sense to look at your own eye, you know, or pictures of what you're trying to do and paint what you see as close as you can get. Teeth horns demo at some point, Dr. Bob. Not right now. Obviously, we're at the end of the watch, but the end of the hour, pretty much. Yeah, we are at the end of the hour. So that's pretty good, I think. You've got kitty eyes, and you've got human eyes, and you've got how to enlarge an eye a little bit. So now you can kind of practice that. And yeah, we'll do teeth and horns at some point. It's just, you know, when. I've got a lot of topics that we want to cover. So yeah. So we aren't doing a free on this yet. This particular cast doesn't get a free because we're still thinking about what we would like to do for it. And also Ed inundates everyone with free on Thursdays, as it is, including, you know, inundating Justin. Yeah, see, and this is why you just want to, oh, well, thanks, Reaper is my addiction. Thanks. Yeah, eyeballs, you know, I used to get paid to do eyeballs when I was working at the game store. We had a Warhammer club, and there was at least one guy who would actually paint me $1 an eyeball because he could not do eyes, but he wanted the eyes to look good. But yeah, so I mean, it really does pay to just kind of look at the anatomy of the eye and figure out, you know, what you're doing. And yeah, the bigger the eyeball, the the easier it is to make it look real. But always use photo references. You know, look for if you want to paint green eyes, kind of look for green eyes. If you want to paint kitty eyes or wolf eyes, look at pictures. It's the best. Yeah, $1 per eyeball. Well, he had a good job, Dimitris, so you know he could afford it. See, you can make money as a miniature painter. You just got to paint eyeballs. That'd be a lot of eyeballs. Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. It's been a fun little cast. I think we're maybe we'll do faces. I don't know. I've got the Hellhound for the Fire Giant. I really want to do some glowing rock and, you know, cracks and stuff and such like that. I actually got some photographs of stuff like that and did some observation of it while I was on the road on vacation. Tips on keeping the model from looking cross-eyed. At that point, really, Cyclone, what you want to do is start both eyes at the same time. You don't want to paint one and then paint the other. So start both eyes and then situate your iris and then adjust it. Like just kind of eyeball it, haha. See what I did there? But you want to essentially just dot them in. And then since they're just dots, you can look and you can kind of see, okay, this one's a little bit more toward the middle. So I've got to enlarge it toward the outside. You know, it's like you kind of got to go slow and adjust, and don't be afraid. And if you do get a little bit of cross-eyed, look for which eye is more pointing toward the middle of the eye socket, and try to put a dot of your off-white or clear white toward the middle, toward the inner edge of that. Like enlarge the white on that side, and usually you can correct it a little bit.
All right. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials.
Yeah.
Right, Miss Ann?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those social things, like that Twitter thing and that Facebook thing, and we don't have a Discord yet, right? Or we do?
We do. It's live, and there's
It's
actually
live?
a command for it.
Oh! So yeah, so we now have a Discord. I don't even have that information yet. I think it's actually on my Discord. I think one of my patrons put it on there, the link to join. So I will have to sign up. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to my patrons, patreon.com/paintingbig. I know a lot of you are already my patrons. I'm so excited because we're almost to our next goal on my Patreon. So I'm super, super psyched. I can't wait. Thinking about adding like some email coaching, adding a new level of email coaching maybe for people. But yeah. Yeah, some of us can only do one social at a time. I'm with you, Reaper is my addiction.
All right.
Yeah, we have Facebook. What is it? What are we just Reaper Miniatures on Facebook? Do we have a things for this show on Facebook yet?
Yeah, no.
A page for this. A page for this for our department for
Correct.
like streaming.
We not for streaming. We have two pages. We have the fan page and the official page.
Oh, okay.
Now we do update those pages when we go live and stuff like that.
All right, so yeah, you can watch out for us on the tweets, on the Facebooks. Do we have Instagrams?
We have Instagram,
We have
Twitter,
Instagrams. We have Twitter. Facepalm, yeah, exactly.
MySpace.
I only go on there for business stuff now, Edra. But it is useful if you want updates. Or if you want quick updates, probably the Twitter is better.
Twitter is the thing designed for the quick updates. I don't know if we use it for all of the pertinent updates, though. Mm-hmm. Like
we should. I mean, because it's the quick check, right? It's the very quick check.
That's what a majority of people use for. So, for instance, if the stream went down,
right,
then we'd like to be able to put that on Twitter.
Right. Exactly. Yep. But you can always check. I mean, Facebook is the biggest one because it's the one we've had for the longest time. So you can always pop in there and see. So yeah. If you've got no social medias, then Reaper John is on top of it. There we go.
All right.
Thank you, John. You're doing a great job. Isn't John doing a great job with our social media guys? I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's everywhere. Oh no. Just like the eyeball monster. Rawr. It's everywhere.
I have a raid set up for us. That's great. I like that.
Isn't it cute?
Yeah.
Rawr.
We are raiding Jimmy the Brush.
We are rating Jimmy. Awesome. Fantastic. Lovely.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start
Everybody
the raid.
say hi to Jimmy. He's so fantastic. We hope that maybe he can come to ReaperCon sometime.
Agreed.
All right. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Happy painting.
And spread the Reaper love.
Oh, yes. Spread the love. And tune in again tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow and today for Terrain Tuesday.
Either faces or burning dog. I can't decide.
Today's episode of Terrain Tuesday is pretty, it's going to be
LinkedIn.
pretty fun. So 3 p.m. Standard Time. Don't forget. It's going to be, a hoot.
A hoot? There'll be owls?
There's going to be owls everywhere.
Owl will be there?
Owl will be there. Yeah. Don't miss it. Agreed. Listen to John. Don't miss it.
All right, guys. Have a great one.
Have a great one, guys.
Say hi to Jimmy.